We have really strict controls over antibiotic use in dairy in Australia. And if any antibiotics milk goes in the vat accidentally, we have to bin the whole vat. If it goes in the big tanker, so if we haven't picked it up in the vat, if it goes in the big tanker, we have to pay for the tanker, the whole tanker load, so $30,000 worth or whatever, and it has to be binned. So you can be absolutely certain that you're not going to have any antibiotics in your milk when you're drinking it from the supermarket. Just getting ready for dry off this morning. So I've got a few cows on my dry off list. At the end of the cow's lactation, they go for a 2-month break out into the sort of hill country. And what that allows them to do is just to rest that udder, to have a bit of a break, recover, and then they're good to come back to milking again. Yeah, it's just healthy for the animal and it's good for production as well. So what I'm going to do this morning, I'll show you. Okay, so here we've got our herd recording data, and this gives us some really important info on the cow throughout their lactation. So they get herd tested every month, and we collect all sorts of data. We collect milk yield data, we collect sort of days in milk, we collect in particular cell count. So the higher the cell count, the higher the risk, the higher the bacteria count basically in the udder, and so then they need a dressing. So there's a fair chance that they'll have mastitis or something going on there, or some other sickness, but most of the time it's mastitis. So what I can do is just find my cows that I'm looking for in the herd recording, and I can check that they're throughout their whole lactation, how many tests they've had at the high cell count range, and if they've gone over the sort of that 250 to 270,000 within the lactation, they'll get a selective dry cow treatment, which is basically a cloxacillin memory injection. So it just goes in the teat, in the udder. It doesn't hurt them or anything, and it's a longer lasting antibiotic to try and clear up any of that persistent infection in the udder, and then they can come in sort of with a much healthier udder next lactation. If they don't need it, we won't give it to them. So it's only if they're testing high that they'll get that selective antibiotic. Yeah, and we don't want to give it unless we have to, antibiotics, because there's all sorts of things that can go on. There's resistance and it's costly and all of that sort of thing. So we'll give it if we have to, because if I'm sick and I need antibiotics, I'm going to take it. So I want to do that for our cows. I think it's the ethical thing to do, is to treat an infection if it's necessary. After milking, they'll get a fluke, which is basically a fluke medicine down the throat. And that stops liver fluke from damaging the liver. And in these sort of damp and wet conditions on a pasture farm, the cows are sort of cruising around the paddocks, and sometimes it can be fairly damp, and there's a chance that they can pick up liver fluke. And we've had a couple of cows with the sort of bulging under the neck, which is a clear sign of liver fluke, and which we've treated. So we've decided to treat all the dry cows for the next sort of 12 months just with liver fluke while this really damp sort of conditions are happening, and yeah, so try and get control of that so there's no damage to the liver. Yeah, so let's get into it. I'll show you our breeding wheel. So this is one of the ways that we keep an eye on where our animals are up to. So they spin around on this wheel as the date goes by. The date's at the top there, and we can see when they hit this line here, they're due for dry off. The Allflex app for the cow collars gives us a clear indication too. So let's get into it. What you got? Yeah, it's starting to rain again. Oh, it's perfect weather though. Although it's quite wet again, it's just perfect on the new sown pasture. We've got about 90% of the farm done now, or the milking platform done now, and yeah, this will be soaking it in nicely. Yep, Gus. Mom. Yep, Gus. There you go. Scratch on the tail. A lot of the cows like scratch on the tail. So these buckets here, they're what we call our test buckets, or our bad milk buckets. So a couple of these cows, like I was saying, they've had a mastitis infection, and that milk has to be separated from the general milk that goes through the top lines here. So that's the first stage of taking that milk out of the system, and then it can't get to the vat then. It's isolated, and yeah. So these girls haven't got antibiotic in their system anymore. They're still counting a little bit high, so we're going to use their milk to feed to the calves. Well, wait, I need to get past you. You. Girl, what's your number? You. Gilly. Alright, going to mark them up just in case they get back in somehow. Jump a few fences or something. The ones without antibiotic dry cow get the blue D, and the ones with antibiotic get the massive D, red Ds and X's and all over them, just to make sure we're definitely not going to accidentally milk them if they jump the fence. Another major breakdown with the mixer feed auger. Auger inside this flighting is cracked right there. Happened not too long ago, so there's got to be something going wrong. Probably due for a new one, but I'm gonna have to pull it out, get it welded up, put it back together. So big job. Get into it. Just mulching the crap all over me from fixing that mixer. Just mulching some of the last trees that we put in. So we're all done with the trees, just finishing mulching, and then then that'll be done for the trees. So that's awesome, and it's had a bit of rain on it the last few days, otherwise we would have had to water it. This is just some old mouldy lucerne mulch, and just a nice thick bit around the tree. The grass will come up and we'll have to spray for the next couple of years, probably through the warmer months mainly. But yeah, it's looking good. It's a beach umbrella. Weekend off, so we thought we'd hit the beach. The water temperature is supposed to be pretty good, even though the air temperature is getting cooler. Good thing about being only about an hour and a half from the beach. How cool is that, guys? Dolphin in the swimming pool.